Today on the channel, we're back again with part 2 of my big question and answer session.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Todd, you're going to really love this part of my book right here. It is Chapter 8, The Hunt Begins, The Thrill of the Chase. There's nothing quite like it, folks. It's a heady mixture of adrenaline, determination, and sheer lunacy that keeps action figure hunters like me on the edge of our couches. I mean seats. But did I mean couches, Todd? Oh, we'll have to read the rest later. But here we are once again with part 2 of my Q&A. Been quite a few years since we've done a big Q&A here on this YouTube channel. Every month I do a Patreon exclusive one, so if you want to join the Patreon, that's another thing you do get over there every single month. But here we are doing one. It's been about 3 years. Now this is part 2. I did just recently put up part 1. So check that video out if you did miss that. You might see some of the same answers between, or some of the same questions, and I guess answers too, between both videos there. But I do got my handy dandy iPad. It's ready to go. First video, I did the Instagram questions. Now I'm going to do the YouTube questions. Of course, you can always shoot your shot and be the weekly purchases question of the week for my wife and I. So check that out if you have not already. I got some Monster here for me, fueling all the reviews here on the channel. So shout out to Monster. I'm willing to be a sponsor. I'm willing. Come my way. I'll do it. You just tell me what. But I only like the white can. I don't like any of the other ones. Only the white can. So grab your Monster, grab your drink, and let's dive in to the Q&A. All right, we're going to start off with Travis Garland, 1771. Kyle, question for you. Is there an obscure toy line you were thinking of dipping into but haven't yet pulled the trigger? For me, space is always an issue, but I have really fell in love with old Brave Star line. Amazing figures. Any vintage line like that you were interested in? Brave Star is interesting. Brave Star and Silverhawks, never in my area on TV. Never got to see them. I'd see the toys out at the toy store, but I wasn't going to buy them because I didn't know anything about them. So very interesting, but that is very cool for him. Space, an issue for everybody, as we do know eventually. But for me, it would have to go back once again. Cops and Crooks, the line I always wanted that never got. I don't foresee myself ever going back and getting them, but if I had to choose one vintage line to collect, that would be the one to do for me. And then let's see here. We got a question here, and it just says from Jay. Where do you get the money to buy all those toys? Well, I answered that in the first part, but I guess I'll do a quick abridged version right here. I go to work every single day. Every single day, 7 days a week, I work. Every single morning, I get up at the crack of dawn, and I sit there on my computer for at least a couple of hours. And then sometimes I stay on the computer all day working, or I'm on conference calls all day, or I'm out at meetings all day, or I'm traveling the Midwest, going to different locations, doing different meetings, things like that. Every single day, I'm working. And when you're working, 60-some hours a week for well over 30 years, guess what? You keep making more money every single year. You work your way up in organizations, and the rest is history. And that's how you afford those toys. No secret to it. It's not like I didn't win the lottery. I mean, that's what a lot of people said. Well, he had a massive trust fund. And Dad, give me that trust fund, Dad. I'm waiting. I'm ready. I'll take it now. If you want to give it to me early, wouldn't you rather just have me enjoy it right in front of your face instead of waiting when my dad dies? And hopefully my dad, I've heard rumors he's going to live to 150, and he might even outlive me. I wouldn't put it past the guy. I wouldn't put it past him. Very determined guy over there. You think I'm determined? He's taking that determination to another level. Even passing you, Todd McFarlane. You don't mess with my dad, and you definitely don't call him Tommy. You guys know that firsthand here on this channel. But yeah, I would love to have. Can I have my inheritance early, Dad? Could I have that? Maybe. Let's write in. Everybody send him a note. I'll give you his email address. But that's what it is. You work every single day, and you never stop, and you're always hustling. You're always working at your day job every single day. This is not my day job. This isn't what I do for a living. I wish it was. It's fun, obviously. It is a good stress relief is what this is for me. So there you go. Let's see. In Darkest Night 1, are you going to do any more books? Maybe a WWE Elite and Ultimate Encyclopedia. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Could I possibly do another book? Does anybody want to hear another passage from this book? Let's see. From collector to connector, my YouTube journey. We could talk about that a little bit. You guys want to see that? We'll see. Maybe another book around the corner. Maybe another book after that around the corner. I would really love to do a Mattel Elite book and Ultimate book. I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, as much as the Jakks one needed to be done because it was a passion project for me. It was a labor of love. It was a lot of hours of work, as you can imagine. Think of how much the Elite line would be as far as work goes. And let's be honest, it's not like I'm Stephen King. I'm going to make $1 million off my book. A lot of people complained about the price of my book. Like, oh my gosh, that's way too much money for that book. Not really when you look at what it costs to produce a book. Especially a 700-page book like that. Think of textbooks, think of stuff like that. So it's not a cheap game. If I did do Elites, I would probably break it by years. I'd do here's 2010, here's 2011, and so forth, like an encyclopedia series. You never know. I would really like to do it, but once again, time is the enemy, and time steals a lot of stuff. I don't know. Maybe if I dial the channel back to one video a week or one video a day or something like that, maybe I could find time to do that, but do I want to do that? I don't know. The hard part is, so I have every loose Elite. I have all that kind of stuff. The hard part I run into with trying to do that book is getting mint on card front and back pictures of every single Elite figure. That's where the trouble comes into. Now, I may have talked to a few people about different things. I don't know. We'll see. It's just a huge, huge undertaking. I guess if you know, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat it one slice at a time. I guess maybe if you say, okay, here's 2010, I'm doing just 2010, I'm doing just 2011. We'll see. We'll see what the future holds, but there'll be more from me. I'm a published author, after all. I got to keep that going, don't I? So stay tuned is what I'll say. Ryan Victory 4961, do you ever feel pressure to buy stuff to review that you wouldn't normally buy? No, not really at all. I think then it's not genuine. If you buy something you at least weren't in the heart, I always say, no matter what, let's say it's an Andre Chase main event figure. At that exact moment at Target, let's call it, you saw that figure. At that moment, that was the number one thing you wanted to buy in the entire world. So I always remember that in the back of my head, that at that moment in time, I really, really wanted it. And I work extremely hard for my money. I always say that. I work too hard for my money, I think, in a lot of days. I don't ever want to throw my money away. I wouldn't do that because I'd get paid 2 cents on a review just doing that. I mean, my time is worth more. I mean, I could make more money doing other things than 99% of the reviews we do here on the channel very easily, but it's a passion project. It's something I love. So I'm not going to review something I don't enjoy, I don't love, or I don't know about. Now, Cosmic Legion's a perfect example here. I don't know the lore. I'm not deep in the weeds. I haven't read all that kind of stuff, but I enjoy them for figures. I love how they look, and I love to kind of create my own agenda in my head. So that is something a little bit different, but it's not one of those things where I get something sent to me. So actually, Jakks Pacific was very nice, sent me a Bendy box, a Bendy and the Ink Machines. I know nothing about Bendy and the Ink Machines, nothing at all. However, my daughters love Bendy and the Ink Machine. So I'd say, hey guys, I got something for you. This is going to be for you. You want to do a video together or not? And they didn't want to do a video, but they wanted the figures. I said, here you go. Thanks, Jakks Pacific. I appreciate you guys sending that on to me. But it wasn't for me. So I'm not going to sit here and do a detailed review on Bendy and the Ink Machines because I don't have a passion for it. I don't know anything about it, first off. So I only do stuff I enjoy for whatever I enjoy. So long word and answer once again. Seagull 3407, question from my daughter. What is your favorite cereal? Oh my gosh. I haven't eaten cereal in 100 years. I don't ever eat cereal. I'm very, very boring in my diet. Oatmeal every morning, like in the microwave, plain. I put a little dash of cinnamon on there, a little bit of honey, and some raw almonds. That is my adventurous breakfast every single morning, and a Monster Energy. So that's my breakfast now. Cereal, though, when I was a kid, I loved Frosted Mini Wheats. I also loved Raisin Bran. And I think a lot of that was my parents had Raisin Bran and grape nuts laying around, so I would eat that because it was there. I liked grape nuts a lot, even though it's like eating little rocks. But I remember I used to just pour sugar. I remember I just poured sugar after sugar on them when I was a kid. And eventually they tasted pretty good. I liked Frosted Flakes as well back in the day. I don't know, that's about it. Frosted Mini Wheats, though, were always my favorite for some reason. I always enjoyed the Frosted Mini Wheats. So it makes me want to have a bowl. I probably haven't had a bowl of cereal in 10 years, I bet, at this point. And then he's got a question from his son as well. Where do you get your custom shirts for your WWE figures, like the Blackhawks jersey you have on your CM Punk figures? Threadhead is probably the biggest one I hear about in this day and age. I do get some stuff from Threadhead if I need something. I haven't bought a lot of that kind of stuff as of late. That Blackhawks jersey, I got that from Ralph's Figure Clothing way back in the day. Way back in the day. But yeah, that's kind of where I would go. I guess those two places. Let's see. Retro URK. Retro Urkel? Jaleel, is that you? Will you continue to collect WWE Mattel Elites if you eventually run out of space? Well, I'll never run out of space for Elites because that is one of my favorite things to collect. That and G.I. Joe Classified and a few others. If it really came down to it, I would say, okay, it's so hard to say goodbye to Power Rangers or whatever it may be, and I would make room for the Mattel Elites there. I've come so far in my Mattel Elite collecting. I don't know. Is there anyone else that has every single Mattel Elite? I don't know. There probably is. I think Bill McKenna has all of them, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So I wouldn't give that up. So there you go. Let's see. Debanic Banir G1188. There you go. It is well known the Ultimate Warrior is your favorite wrestler. How and why is he such a huge influence on you? Love from India. Shout out to India over there. Ultimate Warrior. I came into life or wrestling fandom or whatever when Warrior was just kind of starting out in the WWF. And obviously larger than life, colorful, bright colors, face paint, jacked up, muscled up dude. It's something a lot of kids like, especially if you're in the 80s seeing the Arnold Schwarzeneggers of the world and the larger than life cartoon characters and stuff. So he stole my heart right off the bat, but his way of speaking, as crazy as it was, always just transfixed me as a kid, loading up the rocket fuel, stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know what he's saying, but I always felt like there was more to it and it was a little bit deeper. But then you go to, throughout the years, following his career, following his stuff. And I know he's got controversial stuff. I'm not talking about that. But if you watch some of his videos where he tries to get people fired up to work out, I mean, I used to listen to stuff. There's a band called Winds of Plague, a heavy metal band. Ultimate Warrior did vocals for them. That used to be on my gym playlist all the time back in college. I would love to just, Warrior would inspire me for stuff. And, you know, Warrior never quit. And I've always taken that attitude. You know, you got to get up. You got to get up. You keep going. Your work life. Which, you know, your work everyday life isn't like you're going to the Super Bowl or something, but guess what? Every single day can be your Super Bowl. And Warrior, very inspirational and always kind of one of those guys that really would get me pumped up and focused and driven or whatever you want to call it. There's videos on YouTube that were on back in the day where you take these young heavy metal bands and just scream at them like a drill sergeant. I love stuff like that. And Ultimate Warrior just had a way with words that is just amazing still to this day. And possibly the most powerful speech I've ever heard in my entire life. I don't know what that tells you about me, but his last speech he gave on Raw before he died, like hours later he died. One of the craziest, wildest, most inspiring speeches you'll ever hear. Just solidified the Warrior. It was already solidified by then, but man, to go out like that, unbelievable. And then of course just everything else. Yeah, he wasn't Dean Malenko in the ring. I get that, but that's not all it takes. I mean, if I always say Warrior was probably the greatest wrestler of all time when you think about it. Never got injured. How about that? Getting out of a life of wrestling without being injured. Didn't have to do a million crazy flashy moves. Didn't have to get hurt doing those. Made a boatload of money. I mean, a very, very smart businessman at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it is a business. I think we'd all love to go to work every single day and get paid as much money as we can for the least amount of work. I think a lot of us like to do that, and the Warrior found a way to do that a lot of times as well. So shout out to the Warrior, though. But just, being a kid of the 80s and 90s, playing with action figures and stuff, him being so larger than life, I was perfect time, perfect moment. Who knows? If I was 10 years younger, maybe it would be John Cena. I don't know. But Warrior is my all-time favorite and will always be. So there you go. Dr. Mataconda, I've been slowly collecting a few of the WWE zombie figures from a few years ago, and it's made me think about the occasional action figure crossover event. I think, I don't have the rest of the question. So it says read more, and I just screenshotted it. So I don't have that, but maybe think about the occasional action figure crossover events. I think maybe he's saying what would be a good crossover. I'm not even sure. How about a WWE Squid Game crossover? Could we get that? Could we get that crossover event of a lifetime? Let's do that one. Pablo Bailes 2656. Do you have your own action figure yet? If so, what kind of accessories would it come with? Probably a can of Monster Energy is what it would come with as well. Maybe a slice of pizza, maybe some barbecue, who knows, something like that. Have to have Western Wear edition as well. But no action figure for me yet. Obviously custom. Some great followers of the channel have sent me some amazing customs. Shout out to Murder Juice Customs. He did some really good ones. Sent me a bunch of extra heads there that I've made use of. I've joined Chase U over there. Of course, you've seen Western Wear Kyle. I need to get a McFarlane style head is what I really need to find. So hopefully I can get one of those made one day. But you never know. I mean, I could have action figures made of me if I wanted to, but guess what? You got to pay money. So if I wanted to pay money, there's a lot of people that would make them. But the problem is, if you're going to pay the money, you got to make a certain amount. I don't know, be 10 to 1,000, whatever the number may be, and you got to be able to sell all those. And I don't know. I don't know if people would buy an action figure of me. Maybe they won't. Maybe they will. Who knows? I don't know if we'll ever know. I guess we'll have to stay tuned to the future on that. There is a major bendy of Buddy Christ coming out there, giving you one of those kind of things. I am known in some circles as Bread Jesus, so really that is kind of like a custom of me. I'm really thinking the Major Bendy's group did that to get the Kevin Smith fans and, of course, fans of my real world day job. Of course, they'll want that one in their collection, but maybe one day it'd be pretty cool to have an action figure of myself. Even if it's like a background character, like somebody made one, like, of course, back in the day, like in a comic book or something. Somebody draws Kyle into the comic book. That's pretty cool as a little Easter egg. Maybe we get that in an action figure line one day. Who knows? See what happens in the future. Pablo also asked, oh, nope, that was his question again, so scratch that. The Batman Fan 2854, what was your first action figure? And I believe it was He-Man, if I'm not mistaken. My dad actually did that question on Question of the Week a few months back or something, and I was pretty sure He-Man, and he did confirm that. Seagull back again, 3407. What's the best way to sell part of a collection without using eBay? Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, or you just go to your local toy store and take your chances, I guess. That's probably about it. I don't know what other options there would really be. Mr. Best in the World 5, what's the reaction of non-collectors when they see your toy room? Well, it's funny. If you look at that reel that has almost 1 million views on the Major Wrestling Figure podcast feed, you can kind of see a lot of that. A lot of people saying, oh man, I bet you there's never been a female in that basement, or that guy won the lottery, or he's a trust fund kid, or there's no way. I mean, it's always easy, and I think I might have said this in the first video, it's always easy to dismiss something, and a lot of it probably has to do with jealousy, I'm sure. Your parents always told you that on the playground and stuff. But I would think that it's easy to dismiss that, oh, he won the lottery, that's why he has that. Oh, he has this because of that. People don't ever want to hear the truth that, you're a hard worker, you've earned this, if that's what you want to call it. You've worked hard your whole life, and you've had goals, you've set goals and things. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that the person got up every single day, like the football player. He got up every single day at 4 a.m. to run sprints, and then he went to the weight room, then he did his classes, and then he worked at night, and then went to bed and did it all over the next day. People don't want to hear that. They don't want to believe that. They want to say, man, he was just given a gift at an early age. And there's always some of that, but people don't want to hear that there. So non-collectors, when they see your toy room, I mean, if anybody's at my house, usually I'm friendly with them. So it's usually a pretty, oh man, Kyle, that's awesome, but they might not know anything about it. I guess a perfect example would be like when the HVAC people come like twice a year to service my systems and stuff like that, And lately I've had the same guy for the last couple of years, and he's a big fan anyways and watches the channel. Shout out right there. So it's always kind of shooting the breeze on what he's collecting and stuff like that. So that's kind of always kind of funny how that goes. But most people do think it's a pretty cool deal. It's a pretty cool deal no matter what. So there you go. Seagull 3407 back in. What's the best career advice you've ever received? And I got this very early in my career from a manager that's unfortunately no longer here. We always have mentors in our work life, and this guy really helped me out, really mentored me, promoted me, helped me get promoted, and carried on. Actually, he helped build this whole basement with me, so always shout out to him, my buddy Fred. The best advice I ever got was the best career advice you ever received. He would say, Kyle, you remember he put his arm on my shoulder, he goes, never get too high, never get too low. Never get too high, never get too low. And I think that is the best advice for anything in life. There's always going to be a better day, there's always going to be a worse day. So never get too high, never get too low. There's always the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, be it in business, action figure collecting, day-to-day life, family life, whatever it may be. There's always going to be another day, and it could get a little bit worse, and it could get a little bit better, but never get too high, never get too low. So that's my best advice. I have home contents insurance for my home, which in the event of a major incident would cover my collection for about $7,000. which isn't all of what it's worth, especially for unreplaceable items, but could definitely soften the blow. My question is your collection insured? Yes, and that comes from this handle is not available. That's a good name right there. I talked about that in the first part of the Q&A. I need to up that, though. I have a feeling, and I'm going to look into that a little bit maybe in the new year. But, insurance, it sucks at the end of the day. It's great to have, and it feels like we pay all the time to it, and then when the time comes, you're never going to get what you got out of it. And the problem with a lot of collectibles is perceived value. There's a lot of people, and you go to any toy store, anybody's trying to sell their baseball cards or whatever. No, this is worth this is worth this. It's not really worth that, unfortunately. It's always worth less than you think it is, 99% of the time. So that's one thing, especially if you're an insurance person. I might say this collection's worth $3 million down here. The insurance guy's going to say, yeah, buddy, it's worth $1 million. Good luck selling that for $3 million. And most of the time, they'll probably end up being right. So it's a very difficult game, and you're going to have to pay for it one way or the other. They always got you. Insurance, taxes, they always got you some way. So watch out for that. ALOY6CG, what is the rarest figure in your collection? It's probably that that Spirit of Castle Grayskull figure from the Classics line. What is that, 1 of 13, I believe is what that one is there. It's one of the rarest He-Man figures of all time, so that's probably it. I also got some of those extremely rare Ultimate Warriors. So yeah, it's got to be something like that. Justin Plain 05286, big fan. We're about the same age. Why didn't Robotech Macross grab you as deeply as me? Honestly, I don't even know what either of those things are. So I guess never exposed to them, never saw them, never knew them, never heard about them. So that's got to be the answer. You're only as good as what you know. I think in the first video or this one, I said Brave Star. I never knew about Brave Star. Didn't even know it existed as far as anything outside of a toy line as a little kid. So it didn't grab a hold of me. And I'm guessing those are probably from the 80s or 90s. And if you saw some kind of material that made you a bigger fan to grab hold of, I just didn't have that. Wasn't exposed to that. CM Brock 1, if it was only one toy company that you could collect from, what would it be? I'm just going to have to go from Mattel, probably. I mean, one toy company, just because I collect all the He-Man stuff and all the wrestling stuff. I mean, that's more than a lot of collections combined right there. So I'd have to go that. Probably number 2 would be Hasbro with Marvel Legends and G.I. Joe. Ooh, that's tough, too. I'll go Mattel because I love He-Man, I love wrestling, but man, I love G.I. Joe and I love Marvel. But I'm going to go Mattel, so I'd have to go there. And that's it. Next question. K. Denny Arlock 8366. How many Ultimate Warriors do you have, and do you have all the obscure releases? Yeah, I pretty much got almost all the releases. I'm missing the All-American Limited Edition Mattel Ultimate Warrior. That's the only one I'm missing. Obviously, very hard to get a hold of. And then I'm missing the Granite Ultimate Warrior from Jakks Classic Superstars series, the 1 of 15 or 1 of 20, I believe that is. And then obviously there's the 1 of 1, there's the 1 of 3. There's a few really, really rare Jakks ones that I'm missing as well that, most people will never even have a chance to own because they don't come up for sale. But everything that's ever been released in a grocery store, Walmart store, Target store, online retailer, I have in my collection. So not sure however many that is. I guess go to Wrestling Figure Database, shout out to them, and you can count them up right there. The Action Figure Outlaw. Oh, a KG Outlaw like young Waylon Jennings. Who are some new talents you're hoping to see in the Jazzwares AEW line 2025-26? They could also be in the Ring of Honor line. Oh, man. Just anybody new. I'm here for anybody new. I'm also would love to see the Outrunners. Good friends of the channel, the Outrunners. Good brothers over there. Would love to see them. Would love to see more Stings, Malachi Blacks. Also new talent that are brand new coming into things. Would love to see some of that. So we'll see. I'm just here for everything, but I think they could cool it on the Orange Cassidys and the Moxleys and some of that kind of stuff. Hopefully some new young blood, some new talent in there. Action Figure Outlaw also says, what are some specific Ultimate Warrior looks you still want from Mattel? The first one that comes to my mind, I would love to see the one where he has the baseball hat where he got the painting from Jerry Lawler smashed over his head. He had like the all black face paint and then the hat. I think that's a cool, unique moment in time look. It would be cool if it came with that painting, so I would love to see that. I would also, we got it in basic form back in the day, but it's the homage, don't start McFarlane, to the old Hasbro Warrior, the first one. I would love to see that. I would love to see a whole Hasbro Mattel Elite line where they give the guys they can do, they give them their Hasbro gear. I would love to to see that, so I'd love to see that Warrior. But I'm here for all the Warriors. There's a lot of crazy Warrior gears from like house shows and stuff. I would love to see any of those in the future. So we'll see. Connor loves WWE. Which figure do you think they could have done better? A lot. Anything in my top 10 worst figure list of 2024 would be in there, but there's so many figures. That Detective Batman stands out right now. I mean, you can't even move the arm without the head and the cape's falling off. They could do a lot better there. Some of those Simpsons figures like that Ned Flanders, oh my gosh, fix that. But there's a lot. I mean, you can go all day long. Like Mattel Elite, you could say, oh, they missed that tattoo, they missed this detail. So there's always that kind of stuff as well. It's just how ingrained do you want to get, how deep in the weeds do you want to get on something to that. So there you go. Freud317, what was your first figure as an adult collector? And I think what really set me going on this line of my life, obviously being a kid collector going up, and stopping collecting for a little bit of time, was when Jakks Classic Superstars Series 1 came in. And I tell the story in my book. But seeing that for the first time is you got to think back to those days. Wrestling figures, you didn't get a lot of great stuff. You got R3s, Titantrons, which I know some people like them. I did not like them. It got me out of collecting. But to see the Jakks Classic Superstars line come out and to get Legends. We never got Legends before this. We always got current stars. So you got to put yourself in that headspace that, man, we haven't had an Ultimate Warrior figure since the Hasbro days, or I guess the Jakks Bone Cruncher days, really. But we never got classic looks of figures and of characters and stuff. So it was such a bam moment that I knew I was back in the game with the Classic Superstars. And around that time also, the G.I. Joe 25th Anniversary Collection and then the Figure Subscription Club from the G.I. Joe figures, that got me back in. So those were kind of the ways of getting back into collecting since I was a kid before. So that was the first trip right there. ALOY6CJ back again. What Muttley the Dog figure was that shown in your recent huge toy collection? What brand? Is it still available to buy? I'm sure you can get it on eBay. I got it for like $2 at Walmart. It was from the Scoob movie, the Scooby-Doo movie, and it came with the Blue Falcon. It was like a 2-pack or something like that. So it should be fairly easy to get, I would think. Doc in 1975, Andre the Giant or Big John Studd. I'm a Studd fan, so I'm partial to him. I tell you what, I like Andre, obviously a lot more Andre moments, but as a kid, one of the absolute first favorite wrestlers I ever had was Big John Studd. And it's crazy to me, once I got the internet and you start hearing about work rate and all this stuff, so many people hated on Big John Studd, but man, I loved Big John Studd. I remember seeing him as a kid, obviously as LJN, and then I remember him coming back to referee at WrestleMania. I just was always a Big John Studd believer. So I'm right up there. I love Big John Studd. I love the Elite figures we've got from him. But Andre obviously transcends wrestling, as we do know. But man, Big John Studd, a sleeper if there ever was one. John Aiello, 2315. How many rooms in your house have figures, or are they all confined to the basement? The basement and my office. And that's one of those questions I get all the time. Kyle's whole house is filled with action figures. I wish. Not really. It's nice to get away from it from time to time. But here's the fact. I got a living room. I got a formal living room. I got a formal dining room. I got a dining room. I got a kitchen. I got bathrooms throughout the house. We got laundry rooms. We've got closets. We got 4 bedrooms. We got hallways. We got garages. We got yard. We got a shed. There's no figures in any of those. So the majority of the house doesn't have figures in it. So, you know, from time to time there will be. I'm never going to say that I didn't leave a figure on the kitchen table or something like that, but you get what I mean. But no, there is places to go away, and my wife has control of the rest of that house there. And guess what? She helps me with my action figures as well. So, but how many rooms? I don't know. I just listed them off. So you can count them. You can count them. There you go. Johnny Utah, do you think Power Town can be redeemed? It's mind-boggling how they are treating the releases after Series 1. Yeah, shocking. 2025, we had no releases from Power Town. You know, that's just really, really rough. They lost all momentum they had. And obviously, they've been up and down. But they had a lot of positive publicity coming out of Series 1 when everybody finally got them. Man, they should have followed that right up with Series 2 a few months later. And they lost all momentum just across the board. And I think so many people will not pre-order next time because we've seen the fiasco that was 2024. So, man, I'm rooting for those Power Town guys. Really good guys. I met them over at PowerCon. I just hope they can steer the ship the right way. I don't know. Is it too little, too late? I just don't know what's going to happen with that. So, just mind-boggling to me on running a business. Just from a guy that runs a business every single day that has to manage stuff and all kinds of stuff. I don't know. I just don't get it. Anyways, STECERMJO. Kyle, with your retail work experience and your passion for action figures, have you thought about starting your own toy company, or has a toy company approached you for a position within theirs? No, never thought about starting a toy company. I don't know how well that would go. It would be a little difficult because, man, thing you love so much, now all of a sudden it has to pay your mortgage. Would be very scary. Would be very scary. I mean, I would love to do YouTube full-time and stuff like that, but if that was my sole income, it would be a scary, scary day, I think. But who knows? But yes, has a toy company approached you for a position within theirs? Well, I talked about it a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. What is time? I am actually consulting for a major action figure company, a major toy company we all collect from probably. I'm not going to say who it is, but I am doing consultant work for them currently. So you never know. Some of my things have already come to fruition that I've put out there. So some cool stuff, and I would love to do more consulting, stuff like that. Obviously, I'm around action figures. I feel like I know what I'm talking about with action figures, but I also understand the retail world, dealing with that from a whole nother life. But I always say you could be selling bread, action figures, you could be selling t-shirts, you could be selling milk, you could be selling hammers. Doesn't matter. It all really is the same at the end of the day, especially when dealing with retailers. And I do think I have some tips and tricks that can help people with stuff. And I'm here to consult if you want to pay my fee. So it's a handsome fee, but if you want to pay it, I'll help you out. So there you go. Samuel Bermudez, 4811, do you watch any anime? If so, do you ever plan to collect any figures from those lines? Some people have said like the old school Transformers and G.I. Joe from the 80s is technically anime, so I guess if that counts, I do. But as far as like Cowboy Bebop and Yu-Gi-Oh! And any of that kind of stuff, it's all above my head. I don't understand any of it, never watch any of it, so I don't know anything about it. So there you go. Jovan Oliveras 2274. ¿Cuántas figuras tienes? Yes. Jason Electric 1.0. Kyle, can you tell us what the future holds for Todd and Mark on the couch? Mark's been pretty quiet. Mark's thinking about going back to work. He did semi-retire after his one-man show, but Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, he said that you got a little bit more life in you than your money in you, I think is what he told me. So he might be getting off the couch, going back and getting a new job. We'll see what happens. He might take me with it if it's a good hosting job. So we'll see what happens there. And Todd, I think you got your toes deep in the couch. As he does have his toes inside the cushion. He's sitting there a long way on the couch, and he's got those locked in. So I don't think Todd's leaving anytime soon. And I like to have somebody to banter with and pose questions off too with Todd on the couch. So I know some people don't like Todd on the couch. I know Todd. I don't agree either. But I like some banter. I don't have a co-host. I don't have anybody to banter with. I got to keep myself going, and Todd helps me out with a lot of that. So Todd, firmly implanted on the couch currently. We'll see if that changes in the future. All right, Zundian. I noticed Ace, my dog Ace, was eating out of a double stack of bowls in the latest toy hunt video. Did you have 4 dogs at one point? And yes, for a while I had 4 dogs, then it went down to 3, then it went down to 2, so it's always up and down. Currently have 3 dogs, of course, Domino, Lemmy, and Ace. And I don't know if we'll ever have more than 2 dogs again, you know, as you start getting older in life and you got to do stuff. So we'll see what happens in the future there. Still got a lot of years left with this the Three Stooges here today. But we did have Molly the Dachshund. She was a long-haired dachshund, just the sweetest little dog. But she was just a terror out there in the yard, as she would kill anything that got in our yard. Birds, rabbits, she didn't care. She was killing them, which was pretty cool, all things considered. That's what she was made to do, those dachshunds, of course. But yeah, she passed away, I don't know how many years ago, a few years ago. So we did have 4 there. And then before that, we had a long-haired Chihuahua named Buster. Man, the nicest dog ever. I've never met a nicer dog. I mean, you could literally punch him in the face and he would be your best friend 2 seconds later. I don't recommend it, and I never did. But just the friendliest dog ever. But yeah, we've had a lot of dogs over the years. David Thanos, besides Mattel, which wrestling figure lines are you surprised with and disappointed with? I mean, Power Town, very surprised, very disappointed at the same time. Man, the yin and yang. I know a lot of people wish they were closer to Elite styling, but man, they are amazing figures. When all is right and all is trucking along, amazing, absolutely love them. Obviously, the disappointment comes with some of the shenanigans over the last year or so. I wish their feet and hands were a little bit bigger, but besides that, that would be it. But man, Power Town, that would be the one. Warren Newman, 5325. What's your favorite action figure of all time? LJN Ultimate Warrior. Loco Bass Walker, 1280. For how long will you continue the Todd joke? Forever! Forever! Terry Funk style. Gov Holocaustal 4432. Why don't you collect review playsets like the Elimination Chamber, Backstage Brawl, etc.? None of that stuff has been released since I've been doing the channel, and I haven't had to go back and a need for those. So I'm only going to pick up what I need for my collection. Not going to pick up something just for the heck of it, because why would I do it? I didn't want it, and I wouldn't make enough money to pay for it, so just not going to do that there. But I'm not opposed if some of that stuff comes through, but I think if you go through all my videos here, we've unboxed many a different ring on the channel. We've unboxed a lot of extreme sets on the channel, backgrounds, all kinds of stuff. So we've done a lot of that stuff, but I get it. With as much output as I have, you probably missed some of that stuff. John M9983, do you think Mattel will ever lose the license to produce WWE figures? If so, who could you see producing them in the future? I hope Mattel doesn't lose the license anytime soon. I tell you what, nothing lasts forever. I hate to say it, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there's going to be one day Mattel loses the license. And I think that'll be the day I'm probably out of wrestling figures. We'll see what ends up happening there. I said that in the Jakks days. Here I am now. But we'll see. We'll see. But I do think, I don't know when it'll be. I don't know if it'll be anytime soon. But one day they will lose it. Either Mattel won't want it anymore or WWE won't want it anymore. It'll be very interesting, the next negotiation phase with all the changes in WWE, all the other players out there. Could somebody take a stab at it? Could somebody want to take it on? Going to be a very interesting business discussion. I would love to be a fly on the wall for when that time does happen. So we'll have to see what happens when that time does happen. But I could see our buddy on the couch, Todd McFarlane, jumping in. I know, Todd, you always tell me you hate wrestling, but I could see Todd jumping in there because Todd is a businessman. And say what you want about McFarlane Toys. You love him, you hate him, you're in the middle, whatever it may be. Man, Todd is one of those guys they should write a business book about, because Todd marches to the beat of his own drummer. He doesn't have a board of directors telling him what to do. He is the man, and he creates things, does what he wants to do, and there's something cool about that, because Hasbro, Mattel, all these other companies, they're a real company. Not that McFarlane Toys isn't a real company. They're a big company. But Todd's at the helm. Where Mattel, you got to answer to stockholders, board of directors, all that kind of stuff. Todd can do almost whatever he wants, obviously within reason. So when you got somebody like that that can do whatever he wants, it's a pretty cool idea to see where it goes. Now, it could go south in a hurry, but it could also bring to new heights we've never seen before. So be very interesting. I hope it doesn't happen, Todd, as much as I love you over on the couch. I don't want you getting wrestling. Unless you want to bring me on board and we can just run it together. I don't know. Probably not. But I hope Mattel keeps it just for the sake of our collections and what we've had. I think it is a pretty cool thing how long Mattel has had it, and I would love to see that flag being placed permanently, like we're Mattel forever. I would love to see that. So who knows? Then we got the last question here. It is from Seam Play. Are you going to cut your hair? If so, when? And I've been waiting for this day. I've been waiting for this question. These scissors, just not for action figures anymore. It's time. It's time to cut this hair. Absolutely not. I don't know. I don't know. I've actually maybe once or twice over the last couple of years thought about it. I've always had kind of a really short kind of buzz cut, or shorter on the sides, a little bit longer up here. That's how I always was until COVID. I always wanted to have long hair ever since I was a little kid, but I've talked about it in this video. I've been working since I was 14 with real jobs ever since. And every single one of those real jobs did not allow long hair. They did not allow facial hair for the longest time. The business world has changed a heck of a lot. I still have to wear a suit and tie pretty often, but I'm one of the last few in my organization that has to wear a suit and tie very often. A lot has changed in business. I mean, once upon a time you couldn't have tattoos, facial hair, long hair, all that kind of stuff. Things have really, really changed in the workforce across the board because times have changed and people have changed. People won't go to a job unless they can have their tattoos and facial hair and stuff. So it started with facial hair, still short hair. Then COVID happened. I was stuck at home like everybody else was. I said, you know, now's the time. My hair was already a little bit longer. I said, I'm just going to let it go long, and never looked back at this point. But I don't know, as I start to get a little gray in the tips right here, eventually it's going to be gray all over. I don't want to look like a skunk, so I might shave it then. I don't know, but no time soon, I don't think so. But as the world is more and more back to normal with changes, I do think sometimes people look at the hair and say, maybe it's time to get that cut. There's nobody else in my organization with hair like this either anymore, so I do stand out a little bit probably. I don't know though, but I don't think my hair changes anything I do as far as my work. So I guess it comes into discrimination at that point, doesn't it? I don't know. But no plans. Long story short right there. And that is, long story short, the end of this Q&A. Appreciate all the questions from everybody. As I mentioned earlier, check out my Patreon if you want to be part of the monthly Q&A videos we do every single month over there on the channel. You can also ask your question during weekly purchases for my wife and I every single week. So check out that and subscribe to this channel and my other YouTube channel for content and videos every single day. Every single day, there's content for you. Appreciate all the support out there. ProWrestlingTees.com, search Kyle Peterson. Check out my TikTok channel. Check out my book, now available on Kindle. And of course, SirPaul64 on the X, _Kyle_Peterson on Threads, and on Instagram. So for another Q&A, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.